Congresswoman Crockett, it's so good to see you and have you. We are still a few months away from the scheduled start of the 4 criminal trials against Donald Trump. Can you talk about how important it is for these cases to proceed on time and tried before we get to the actual election?
Yeah, so first of all, good morning. It's great to see you as well. And one of the things that I honestly want to stress is, and Charles, you know this, the fact that Donald Trump has been treated unlike anyone that we've ever seen before. I was just having this debate yesterday about the fact that anyone else would be under the jail by now. You and I both know that a motion for contempt of court would have been filed and he would have been jailed. And honestly, he has violated gag order after gag order. And for some reason, he is still walking around and not truly being treated like every other criminal defendant. But it's important for the people to see the evidence that exists against Donald Trump before they cast their votes so that they can hopefully make a fully informed decision. I'll be honest with you, though, there's a certain amount of people, it doesn't really matter how much evidence you show them, they still want this tyrant to be over our country. You talked earlier about voting rights. The degradation of any freedoms that we've had have honestly been at the hands of Donald Trump. Donald Trump's Supreme Court is the one that has gotten rid of our reproductive access, gotten rid of affirmative action, and now they are going after Section 2 after we finally had a few cases that were in the W column for us, whether it was Louisiana or if it was Alabama or potentially Georgia. It's always the South. It's somebody that comes from Texas. Trust me, I can tell you that I am so upset that we don't have Section 5, and we absolutely have to make sure that Section 2 is kept intact in the way that it always has existed.
Now, Congresswoman, you brought up Texas, so we're going to stay there because this is your district and your home state. Donald Trump has already talked about what he wants to do around immigration, and I'm staying in Texas because it's a border state. So are you concerned, or do you have the confidence that there are currently enough guardrails in democracy from him, going into some of these most extreme policies around immigration? What are your thoughts there?
I'm glad you brought this up, because obviously you're spending a lot of time talking about Israel. There's a lot of people that are saying, hey, we have issues with the president, talking about President Biden and his handling of Israel, and they're saying we're going to stand down, we're not going to support him. I do want to point out that Donald Trump was the one that was actually pushing forward with a Muslim ban that did not go forward because he didn't have the court of his choosing. Donald Trump has already made it clear that he wants to go ahead and re-urge that Muslim ban. So for those that believe that they have issues with President Biden, and I'm not saying that you don't have issues, I'm just saying that you should have a few more issues with the person that literally wants to ban Muslims in this country. He's already tried it before, and he said that he will do it again. This is not the type of leadership that we need. And I know that people are frustrated right now because they feel like their cities are being overrun, and this is a federal government problem. Yesterday I had an opportunity to listen into Twitter Spaces. It was my first time, and I was actually listening to George Santos from your state. And honestly, I was shocked because it was the first time he was dropping a lot of truth bombs. And one of them was the fact that this has been the most ineffective Congress. This House has been the most ineffective in the history of the Congress. And it is because we've not passed any bills of consequence, including if the Republicans really wanted a fix to immigration, they would be pushing forward with one right now. They don't have solutions. All they have is more problems for the American people.
I see what you did there in terms of trying to slip in George Santos being from my home state. And that's okay, because I did not have you agreeing with George Santos on my Saturday bingo card, and there it is. You are, Congressman Crockett, a freshman member, along with your freshman classmate, who you just mentioned, George Santos. You all have had a run in terms of your first year in Congress and your first term. The last time we spoke on air was before we had gotten the CR that was taking us to November 17th. We now have another one that's taking us further. What are your thoughts on moving forward, since you were talking about the federal government, in terms of the ability to actually get a budget approved without having to do these continued stopgaps under the current leadership in the House?
You know, honestly, I have said twice that the government was going to shut down, and I was very confident in saying that. I'm going to say it again, because at least when I say it, it's not true, and so that's a good thing. But I don't have any confidence in this speaker. When we were there right before we came home for the Thanksgiving break, there were 2 appropriations bills that never made it to the floor because the speaker didn't have the votes. The week before that, there was another appropriations bill that didn't make it to the floor because he didn't have the votes. So, you know, you can change whoever the head is of this circus, but it's still a circus. And so until and unless the speaker decides that he wants to sit down with the Democrats, which the Democrats have proven that we are down for governance, we actually want to make sure that we protect the American people. The CRs that have passed overwhelmingly because of the support of Democrats. Democrats are ready to work and serve. If the speaker wants to go ahead and decide that he will neglect the extreme side of his party, if you can even call it a party at this point in time, and he wants to actually get to the work of the American people, the Democrats are there. Another amazing congressman, Hakeem Jeffries out of New York, is always ready and willing to work. And so we're ready to work, but I don't really see that happening anytime soon.
There is another amazing congresswoman in your background, the late, great Shirley Chisholm. Give it up to her, also from New York. A little Texas two-step this Saturday morning with Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett. Thank you so much for joining us on Velshi. Still ahead, Hamas and